I'd like to congratulate you on winning the Golden Lion. And I'd also like to ask you that whereas winning awards is a great achievement for any filmmaker, I guess the biggest award is to see it in a hall with audiences. What's the kind of response that Monsoon Wedding has had in India?
It's, it was very important for me to have the first release of this film in India, because I'm from here and it's really a love song to Delhi and to India, I think, and to modern India. And so obviously this was very important, and we are now 5 days, been running 5 days. It's my first sort of essentially almost mainstream release. We have 76 prints out all over India, and it's been, it's a hit, they tell me. I mean, the box office is fantastic, and it's working very well in the metros, and Chennai especially is rocking. People are very excited, but it's still early to tell. But I just love the public embrace that the film is receiving, the word of mouth. This one is the first time I've gone all out, and the distributor has iDreams, a man called Shripal Morakia, has bought this film and invested a lot of money in it.
Very ironical that you spent little on making it, but a hell of a lot in publicizing it, isn't it?
Actually, yes. I mean, I don't spend a lot in publicizing it. It's the people who buy it who realize its potential and who then go out to town. I'm the filmmaker and then I sell it. And so, but the unique thing about Monsoon Wedding is that it's very actually easy to have a good time with it, and therefore our concept of when we released the film, that we would have barats in every city with the cast and the crew, walking with this in the streets with the band baja, just like Jia band from Chandni Chowk. Everybody has a good time, but we haven't spent much money. You know what I mean? We're not promoting a 5-star kind of culture with this film. We are promoting the fact that it is a film really for the people. It's about people like us. It's a populist film.
Like you said, we are like this only.
We are like that only.
Now, when I was seeing this film, before I went to see the film, my idea was, oh no, another Shadi ka video, You've got Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, and there is Dil De Chuke Sanam, and there's so many films on Shadi. Did you have to pick up a film again surrounded around a Punjabi wedding?
Well, to use a wedding for drama is as old as Shakuntala even. It's Chekhov, it's Shakespeare, it's Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. It's not a new premise to discuss the human condition, because in a shadi, especially Indian shadis and Punjabi shadis, people come from everywhere, and it's about the family gathering together. And Sabrina Dhawan, the writer, and I are both Delhi Punjabis, and we wanted to make a film about modern contemporary India as we live it now, and especially this mood in India now, where it's sort of, we are free of the inferiority complexes of looking at the West, and that we are sort of proud to be who we are. In fact, if you're a young person, you'd say it's cool to be Indian, our bhangra, our rock, or the way we move in the layers of language, the music, all that is happening. It's a certain kind of energy now. The story of sort of magic love between P.K. Dubey, the tentwala, and Alice the maid. The story of the bride who is confused between lust for an older man and her lover. The story of teenage lust. The story of the old shoe love, which I call the marriage. Lalit and Pimmi, who are parents of the bride. What it feels like to have lived together 25 years and the marriage is sort of taken for granted, there's not much passion, and your daughter is suddenly leaving home, and how you rediscover each other in a different, deeper companionship level of love. So that's what Monsoon Wedding is for me. It's not really a shadi video at all.
Dare I say, Mira, that because you had 5 subplots and 5 relationships that you were dealing with, you couldn't delve into them in probably the manner that would satisfy an audience. No one relationship seems to grow and seems to mature for, an end or happily ever after scene. Say, for example, if I was to talk about Nasiruddin Shah and Let To Be Romance, yes, you're talking about 25 years married life, but then one doesn't see any growth.
Are you
what
kidding?
Began and what
maybe
ended.
You saw the different movie.
Agree?
I don't agree, because you take Nasir and Lilette's characters in the film. They start off, he's a harassed man who wants the best for his daughter's wedding. She's part of this sort of, ditzy, overly overwhelmed, organizing wife. You see that they have twin beds, not much is made of it. You see that there's a real affection there, but it's that kind of taken for grantedness. You see him in agony, reaching for her, going to her, asking for her to settle him, to calm him. And you see her responding to him and her absolutely supportive love of him, and how they reach in that scene to a different level of passion even. It's a kind of sensuality that does take over, even in the comfort. And then how she is with him, and she's with him until he makes his final decision, and how then they celebrate. So you see the arc of that. For me that is an arc, and for the world it seems to be an arc. I'm sorry it isn't for you, but it's so if you look at every relationship in the film, like you take Dubey, a man who is coarse and hustler and man on the move, a wheeler dealer, doesn't think of love, he's just on the move. Let's get another beeper, let's get another gadget, let's get another AC van, let's become a event manager. And then he meets Alice, this person he least expects to notice.
You have dedicated the film to your family, and you've said that many of your family members acted in this film. You did the same with Salaam Bombay in the sense that you took non-actors. Why is it that you employ this technique?
It really depends of the theme of the film. With Salaam Bombay was inspired by the spirit of survival in street children, by the fact that they live despite being denied a childhood with a great amount of dignity and flamboyance, even a style to life. And when I see that, I also come from a real strict documentary tradition, and authenticity is my treasure. It's what I aspire to capture in my fiction work, is this whole extraordinary quality of ordinary life. And why go to an actor to pretend to be a street urchin when you have a street child who has lived that life and whose map of life is on his face? For me, that is the treasure itself, So I would rather go the extra miles it takes to acquaint and to create an atmosphere of comfort for a non-actor like that to give us his truth, rather than fake somebody who has known a bourgeois life to become that person, in the case of Salaam Bombay. But it is, of course, about juicing at the dramatic situation. So you have a Nana Patekar on the one side, who's a consummate, brilliant movie star. He wasn't then, it was his first film. Meeting a street kid who has never acted before. And my work as a director is to create a spirit of equilibrium in that workshop, in the kind of rehearsal process that I'm very committed to doing prior to shooting, where everyone is equal, and where you create an atmosphere of trust where people are not intimidated by each other, and rather look at each other to do their best, to take them further, which was the same technique with Monsoon Wedding. The idea of a Monsoon Wedding was to make a film in 30 days, actually, to see that we didn't need the millions of rupees, we didn't need manipulations, we didn't need lights and special effects and, the kind of patina of what people confuse with cinema. To go back to what is really essential cinema, which is a good story, great performances and drama, and a visual way of telling that world, which is what I aspired to do with Monsoon Wedding. But with you wanting to make a film in 30 days, which is less than half the amount of time that anybody makes a movie in, it's a lot of work.
You didn't have to deal with starry airs when, a person of a caliber of, say, Nasiruddin Shah or the others, when they interact with non-actors, didn't they lose patience?
No, because they were all, I think everybody, I'm discovering from the biggest Hollywood actors I've worked with to the biggest Bollywood actors or whatever here, everybody wants to do good work in their life. You see, it comes very rarely. You're usually asked to do a whole bunch of crap to make a living. And everybody is interested in this idea of, stretching oneself. And Nasir especially was just delighted with this offer. We'd been wanting to work together for years, and especially when I said about the rehearsals, he's from the theatre. He really understands the value of rehearsals. In fact, it's hilarious, when we were rehearsing in Delhi 2-3 weeks before the shoot of Monsoon Wedding, he would get phone calls from Bombay producers saying, हाँ भाई 2 दिन का shoot है, आ जाना, आप क्या कर रहे हो वहाँ? तो कह रहे थे कि भाई हम रिहर्सल कर रहे हैं भाई. इसे रिहर्सल अब हमारे घर पे तो shooting हो रहा है भाई, रिहर्सल छोड़िए आप shooting कर रहे, and they would just not understand the concept of rehearsal, and people look at this film the world over in Monsoon Wedding and they say, how do you achieve that type of intimacy, that kind of familiarity of life, which is really the quality of Monsoon Wedding. It's like life, but we achieved it by performing, rehearsing in the spaces that we were shooting in, so that when you entered a space when we were actually filming it, you knew where your cigarettes were kept, and you knew where your chappals were, and you knew that your saris were hanging in that cupboard. It was real. So it all helps, to create a sense of truth.
Before the film was released, you did say that you wanted the film to be kind of inspirational to young filmmakers. They don't want, like you said, that they don't need huge budgets to make films. You could, because of your standing, get a Nasiruddin Shah Aliled to be a Soni Razdan to act, at the same time get non-actors but get brilliant performances. What about young actors, young documentary filmmakers who want to make a film like what you have done? Can they aspire to do something like this?
Of course, that's the whole idea. I mean, they just have to be in a state of hunger, really be diseased by the
process of filmmaking.
Process of filmmaking. I always call it a complete affliction, and I'm sort of eternally sick with it. And they have to want it badly enough. And they have to be focused and highly disciplined and humble to learning the craft. Because the only way to make a film like this in 30 days is to make it actually masterfully. It requires more craft and more discipline and more energy behind the camera in order to get so much, 5 stories, this whole circus of events in 30 days. It actually is much more work than having all the millions at your disposal, because when you have a lot of money, you have a lot of time, and when you have a lot of time, you can afford to make choices and so on. But with Monsoon, we were ruthless. We had to go right in there and shoot only what we needed and go for it, because we wouldn't get to the next scene otherwise.
Okay, you did shoot on a shoestring budget. You were experimenting even as far as the plot is concerned. Like you said, 5 plots within a plot. When you were doing something like this, you were even technically experimenting with a smaller camera. Wasn't it a big risk that you were taking?
Yes, it was, and that was the joy of it. It was totally about risk, but they were the stakes were just that I would fall on my face. Not many people would lose lots of money. It was a very, consciously put together as a tiny thing, as a spirit of play, And so the stakes were actually that, in that sense, low, only artistically high, but the stakes are always artistically high for any filmmaker, But I was just creating a very quiet situation. Nobody knew about it. I never did any publicity or anything, because it was about the act of making the film itself. It was not about thinking about the fruits of the action or the golden lions or whatever, It was about creating a spirit where we didn't have to answer to $50 million. We had to just create a atmosphere where we could make the best piece of work.
So in such a situation, winning an award must have been a pretty big shock.
I mean, you didn't have any idea. I don't even think about it, Not just that, but the film, when we premiered it in Venice, which was a week before the awards were announced, it was itself such an extraordinary, euphoric sort of night where they wept and they cheered off their seats in the middle of the film, and then they sat down and then they laughed and then they danced down the aisles for like 15-20 minutes, and we were all of us there, the cast, 23 of us were there, my family and everybody. And it was such a joyful, sort of euphoric reception. Everywhere the Indians would go, the applause would start on the streets for the next whole week. And so that was the golden lion for me. I didn't need any more. I didn't even think about prizes, because usually popular films don't win prizes, So it really came as an unexpected and great honor.
What is the audience for the film? Did you have any specific audience? Was it Indian audience? Was it NRI? Was it totally foreigners whom you thought would watch the film?
With this film, more than any other, I have to say that I made it really first to please myself, and hoped for my primary audience being India, because even though I knew it was a radically structured film, it is about Indian family values, and it is really a family film. And to work in India would mean the world to me, And therefore, I chose to be opening the film in India first in the world. Now it opens all over the world in the next 2 weeks on. So yes, it's made for whoever would like to see it, for the world, but I would be happiest if it would do well here. I'm being just publicly, a lot of kinds of people have seen the film, and actually in the space of 5 days have seen it twice, because I do know that it is a quick film, it's an economic film, and it does a lot in 2 hours. So people actually find themselves going back again to figure other things out and to see other things.
For if you were making a film for Indian audiences, picking up a subject like pedophilia is something completely new. You don't associate that with a Hindi film or an Indian film, and that too with a wedding scenario in mind. Wasn't it kind of being very rebellious if you were thinking about an Indian audience?
Well, the subject was very close to Sabrina Dhawan, the writer's heart, and my work, I like to really make films that mirror our world. With the Monsoon Wedding, I really wanted to make a film for family, for my family, for I joke about it and say it's my first clean movie in a funny sense, ironic sense. But I'm not very good at making films that are pleasant Sunday afternoon movies that you forget about. I like to use the medium, wanting to do that because this is an issue that is not unique to Indians at all. It's all over the world, as we know. But unlike other places, we don't have the Oprah talk shows, and we don't have public forums to talk about something that is so taboo. But I believe that the oppression is really a silence. And if you keep such issues always under wraps, when they're really happening within your own family, which is why they're of course kept under wraps, it's important to create places of dialogue where people who have gone through this, and believe you, many of us have, who can understand this. I've had very cathartic sort of responses from clearly people who have gone through this, who in Nasiruddin's act of banishing the uncle, wonderfully played by Rajat Kapoor, the women have come to me like just weeping, just said, the first time we understand what we missed when this happened to us is we missed this protection. We missed this feeling of being embraced, of being actually believed, because nobody believed us.
So is that why you've taken supposedly mainstream cinema but brought out these subterranean realities?
Possibly, you could say. But mostly because, we didn't set out to say, okay, what is our agenda? We don't work like that. It's about saying what we are interested in and bringing it to the table, Sabrina and I. I said, I'm interested in upstairs, downstairs quality of life. I want the Tentwala and Alice. I want the coexistence of class, because that's what India is. We've always grown up with cooks and ayahs who have sung us to sleep for 25 years. And they too have a world. They have a major history with them. And I want that story on, just as much as I want the bourgeois story. So Sabrina similarly brought this story of abuse. And, for us, when we were set out to make a film about love, then there is all kinds of love, and abuse too, to be very risky here. Abuse too is a kind of a creepy love, a dysfunctional, twisted love. So that's how we saw it.
You worked in Hollywood as well as in India. What is the difference in working in films there and here?
Well, in India, the high for me is to make a kind of electricity out of chaos. In Hollywood, the challenge for me is to make a kind of electricity out of incredibly well-organized, standardized operations. You see what I mean? To capture life when everything is so terribly well-organized is more difficult sometimes than to capture life in the chaos of a Chandni Chowk street, But having said that, performances, levels, all of that I would say is absolutely the same. The American actors who are extraordinary at what they do, I would never put Nasir or Vijay or any of these great actors we have, at any less par than the greatest of Hollywood actors that I've worked with, So it's, in that sense, the talent is explosive both places. It's just the method of working is entirely different.
Is that the reason why Indian films really do not make it abroad? Is it because that the final product that comes across, as you said, from chaos to bring about a finished product is difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, but Indian films, are made also for their own audiences, which are fantastic, I think. In the vocabulary of a Bollywood film is stunning. And I always say in the West that it's about time they woke up to it. It's not like we should really adjust to them. In fact, I fear of the other thing, which is that as Bollywood is beginning to discover that there's a huge other overseas market beyond the Indian diaspora that they know already, you know, in the Western market. I hope that they don't remove the Bollywood aspect from Bollywood films. I hope that they don't remove the Nach, Gana, Dhamaka.
The last film that you worked on is with Uma Thurman, isn't it?
Yes.
What is that about?
It's called Hysterical Blindness, and it's with Uma Thurman and Jenna Rowlands and Juliette Lewis, and it's a portrait of working class America, shot in the late 80s in New Jersey, what I call the ugly era, you know, the big hair and the shoulder pads and Bon Jovi, and it's a very emotional and contentious relationship between a mother and daughter, both of whom look for love, and the mother finding it and the daughter not, and how they come to terms with each other.
Nothing has moved you about India as yet?
Oh, are you kidding? I'm right here now. I've literally just not even finished Monsoon. I'm on this big promotion of it. But it'll take me time. But we're cooking something up, and I think in 2 years I'll be back.